Have you ever wondered why silence feels so loud? Why the moment your phone dies, or the fridge is empty, or the noise fades, something deeper begins to stir, something you can't quite name, but desperately want to avoid? We live in a world of endless pleasure, yet feel more lost than ever. Food, scrolling, casual entertainment, dopamine on demand, these aren't just habits, they're coping mechanisms. Beneath the surface lies a truth too painful to face: we are running. Running from the void, from the ache of meaninglessness, from the mirror that silence holds up to the soul. But what if this constant search for stimulation is not freedom, but a prison made of sugar, screens, and smiles? What if every escape is actually a symptom, a signal from something within you that's begging to be seen? You're not here by accident. If this message has already stirred something inside you, an unease, a curiosity, a memory, then stay. Because what we're about to explore is not just information, it's an invitation. A mirror. A descent into the parts of you that no one ever taught you how to face. But I promise, on the other side of that descent, there is light. Maybe not comfort, but clarity. Not relief, but awakening. So before we go deeper, I want to ask you something important, not for the algorithm, but for the mission behind Este Contudo. If this resonates, pause for a second. Like the video. Leave a comment, even if it's just a word. Share it with someone who also runs in silence. And most of all, subscribe, not just to the channel, but to the commitment of looking inward. Because this isn't about views. It's about seeing. Because maybe, just maybe, what you call failure is not the end, but a message. A rebellion from your own soul against the life you were taught to settle for. The real question is not why we seek pleasure, but why we fear stillness. Stillness forces us to confront the parts of ourselves we've buried, our grief, our disappointments, our unmet needs. Carl Jung wrote, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." We crave the light but reject the descent. And so we snack on pleasure to avoid the descent into our own darkness. Friedrich Nietzsche dared us to become who we are, but how can we become anything real if we are numb? If every uncomfortable emotion is immediately sedated by distraction? What we call laziness, addiction, or procrastination, might actually be signals from the soul that something essential has been exiled. We live with a hunger no meal satisfies, a loneliness no chat can cure, a tension that no amount of likes or laughter relieves. Why? Because what we truly avoid isn't boredom, it's meaning. As Viktor Frankl observed, when a person cannot find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. But pleasure without presence becomes anesthesia. Schopenhauer, too, warned us, life swings like a pendulum between pain and boredom. And so we swing with it, desperately trying to stay in the middle ground, numb, entertained, disconnected from the rawness of being alive. Ask yourself this: what is the cost of your comfort? When did you learn to equate feeling good with being okay? Most of us weren't taught to feel, we were taught to function. And somewhere in childhood, perhaps silently, we made a pact: I will avoid my pain if it means I can be accepted. That pact becomes the root of invisible patterns that dictate our adult lives. That's how trauma becomes personality. Sometimes, what you call a bad habit is really a ritual of survival. The chocolate you eat at 2 a.m., the endless scrolling, the one more episode, these are not random, they are responses. Responses to an inner emptiness too complex to name. Gabor Mate calls it undigested pain. And Jung would call it the shadow, the parts of ourselves we've disowned, yet act through us like ghosts behind the curtain. You are not broken. You are divided. There is a part of you that longs to grow, and a part that fears what growth might cost. One wants truth, the other, comfort. And in between, you live in tension, seeking healing without pain, change without challenge, love without vulnerability. But wholeness demands more of us. It demands that we see ourselves completely. Because maybe, just maybe, what you call failure is not the end, but a message. A rebellion from your own soul against the life you were taught to settle for. And the pleasure you used to soothe the ache. It's only a placeholder. A distraction from the sacred task of facing yourself. Of descending into your own depths, not to drown, but to finally rise. Real transformation begins not with blame, but with recognition. When you stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What am I running from?" the path opens. That's when the healing begins, not because the pain disappears, but because you've finally turned to face it. As Gabor Mate says, the question is not why the addiction, but why the pain. And pain, when met with presence, becomes a portal. Looking inward is not a glamorous act. It doesn't make noise, and it doesn't seek applause. But it is the most revolutionary thing you can do. To sit with your discomfort. To hold your grief. To look into the mirror of your own contradictions and say, "I see you. I will no longer abandon you." This is where self-knowledge begins, not in self-improvement, but in self-acceptance. There is no shortcut. No quick fix. No spiritual bypass. The journey toward wholeness is less about becoming someone new, and more about remembering who you were before the world told you to hide. And as Viktor Frankl reminded us, even in suffering, we retain the freedom to choose our response. That response can be avoidance, or awakening. You were never meant to live anesthetized. Life wasn't meant to be a blur of distractions. The joy you truly crave is not found in escape, but in presence, in living with eyes wide open, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Because the pain you face with courage becomes wisdom. And the pleasure you once used to run, becomes something you can finally choose, not need. So maybe the real question is not how to feel better, but how to feel more. More real, more present, more whole. Not by adding more to your life, but by subtracting the noise long enough to hear your truth beneath it. The truth doesn't shout. It whispers beneath your cravings, behind your habits, in the silence you avoid. Today, don't just scroll past this message. Instead, pause. Watch yourself. Observe the small moments, the impulse to check your phone, the snack you weren't really hungry for, the tension when you're alone. Don't judge. Just notice. Every reaction is a map to something inside you asking to be seen. Are you ready to stop running from yourself? Observe your silence. It might say more than your words ever could. If this message spoke to something deep in you, like a voice you've ignored for too long, then don't stop here. Watch the video appearing on your screen now. It may be exactly what your soul has been waiting to hear.